Hi everyone, and welcome to And Sew On. My name is Lisa, and today it's a knitting day. So last time it was a sewing day, and I showed you lots of sewing and a walk around town, but the knitting has been piling up, and so I want to show you this knitting because some of it I have to send away and some of it I've already sent away, and so I wanted to catch you up. Now, if you haven't watched before, my name is Lisa, and this is my sewing and knitting podcast that I am doing from Sitges, Spain, which is a small town outside of Barcelona. I'm originally from Toronto. Actually, I'm originally from Montreal, to be honest, but I've lived in Toronto since I was 5 years old, and we have spent the last little bit over a year living in Spain. Today is quite a blustery day here by the seaside. We did go out for a nice walk this morning. It's not cold, it's just a little bit blustery. I can see the palm trees outside whipping around, and I thought I would take the opportunity on a bit of a blustery afternoon to stay inside, be cozy with my knits. Okay, so the first thing I finished were the Malabrigo socks that my friend Jeff asked me to make for his girlfriend Laura, and I was happy to do so, working with such beautiful yarn. And I actually took the opportunity to do, not pattern design of course, but some nice customization. So here are the finished socks. I did take a video of them before I sent them off. Malabrigo Rios is a nice worsted yarn. It is a washable yarn, although I don't think you'd put it in the dryer, but it is a superwash yarn. And the colors are just amazing. It's so, so beautiful. It's a bit of an investment, but not compared to, say, you know, compared to like a hand dyed from an indie dyer. It's kind of in the middle. I absolutely love this, and I had such a nice time working on it. So I was inspired by this sock, and I can't think of it on the top of my head, but I'll put the link down below, as I said last time. And I was totally inspired by this sock, but when I looked at it, I realized that really the only thing unique about it was the cable, and I couldn't justify buying a new pattern for the sake of one cable. So I figured it out. I used a worsted sock pattern, and I just added a cable to the side. And I'm gonna explain the process on another sock that I made this week, so you can see how I did that. But just adding one simple cable, I think made it so pretty, and hopefully she loves them. They are in the mail on their way to Canada. Another gift I finished was the Chance Cowl by Tracie Solarte, and I knit this in DMC Pirouette yarn. I loved all the colors in this, and I knit this for my Spanish teacher, who is just lovely and very knit-worthy, and she always loves my knits and asks me about my homemade items, handmade items, and so I thought it would be nice to make something for her. So I made her this cowl. Again, it's a free pattern. I probably used about half the yarn, and so I think if I have enough time, I might make her a matching hat for Christmas. Okay, so now next, if your name is Cecile, and you have been friends with me since we were 5 years old, and you are currently living in Adana, Turkey, please fast forward to whatever number I put down here because I don't want to ruin the surprise. Okay, so I have a wonderful friend who I've probably my oldest friend, and we're very close. Her name is Cecile. She lives in Turkey, as you may have guessed. And Cecile, when I asked her, I said, I want to knit you something for Christmas. What would you like? And she said socks. So where she is in Turkey is actually very warm, but they do have some winter for sure. And so I knit her these socks. And do I have them on the right side? Yes. So I knit these socks for Cecile. Now she has teeny little feet. Her feet are the same size as Lily's. So even though on me these would be shorties, on her I think they should be kind of like just above the ankle, so a little bit higher than shorties. Again, because it's a warm climate, I didn't want to do like super woolly socks. So I made these from Regia Premium Merino Yak, which is actually kind of appropriate because Cecile's background is actually German. I mean, she's Canadian, but she has German heritage. So yes, this is the Regia Premium, and I got this in 2 colors. Let me show you. I got this actually when I was ordering the Malabrigo for my friend. I just, you know, I didn't charge him to make the socks, of course. So I basically just piggybacked on his order and ordered a few things for myself. And so I got these 2 beautiful colors. And this yarn, so this is beige, and I think I can't remember what the name, I think it's done by number. So again, it's on my Ravelry if you really want to know these colors. The reason why they look so different is that one I was pulling from the center and one I was pulling from the outside. Okay, so this is 58% wool, 28% polyamide, and 14% yak. And because of the yak, if you can see how it's not really a saturated color, it's because the yak is quite gray, and so you end up with these kind of muted tones. Really, really beautiful. It's very squishy. It's meant for socks, but it's quite soft. And even though it's definitely fingering weight, it almost feels not a sport weight, but it's definitely not a light fingering, put it that way. Anyway, it's lovely and squishy and I love it. And so I decided to make socks for my friend. I just blocked them. So one thing I decided to do, number one, I used my new 1.75 millimeter needles from, these are Addies. Yeah, they're Addies. I got the extra long cable because I do sometimes like to do my socks 2 at a time. Not in this case. This case I did them separately. But the 1.75 does help. So let me show you. I did these toe up, and the first one, am I going to be able to see? Yes. Okay, so if you look at the top, you can see that the stitches are larger than down here. It's not like super noticeable, but you might be able to tell better on this side. Okay, so for the first two centimeters, say, of the sock, I was using my 2.0s because I forgot that I had the 1.75s, and then I switched. And I will say that I think my gauge is better. It's more sock-like. When I see people who have those teeny little stitches in a row on a sock, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. There's just no way. I don't think there are. The only thing I could do is I could try to knit socks throwing rather than continental. I could do that. Anyway, I don't think I'm gonna do that, but you never know. So what I did was I started off with a Turkish cast on, which I thought was apropos for someone living in Turkey. Isn't that so pretty? I just love how seamless that is. Makes me so happy. And then I decided to add a cable. So I wanted to sort of look at it as our lives. This is sort of representative of my friend and I, and our lives intersecting and then coming apart and then intersecting again, which has very much been the case since we were 5. We've lived all over and lost touch and then gotten back together again and lost touch, and our lives have come back together again. So I thought that was nice. And so what I did was I took 56 stitches. So I took half of that, which is 28. And I just put X's and O's on a paper to determine where I wanted the cable to be, how big I wanted the cable to be, and then I took the rest of the stitches and divided it to make the ribbing. And so what I ended up with was a 5x1 ribbing, and then 2 2x2 cable with 2 pearls on either side. And I crossed those over every 7 rows. I did put those notes in my Ravelry page. And then I did an afterthought heel. And the afterthought heel turned out quite well. The other thing I did was I taught myself a new bind off. So Cecile and I we're both people who like to learn new things. And so I also saw it as representative of our friendship to learn a new skill while making these socks. So I did a sewn bind off that has it's nice and stretchy. It doesn't flare, and it's just a nice new bind off. So it's not as difficult a bind off as some of the other, or not as cumbersome, shall we put it that way. It's quite easy, really straightforward, and I loved it. So I will put the link to that down below that I used, and I think that's what I'm going to be using from now on. And then at the top, of course, is just a 1x1 rib, and that's it. We're done. So I'm going to mail those off to her on Monday. The other big thing that I started and finished since I last talked to you about knitting is Audrey's Sunday sweater. Okay, so I'd shown you that I had bought some Drops Air for Audrey, and I was going to do a free pattern from Unit, which I believe is called the Pixelated Sweater, and I'll put in a picture. And she said that she liked it, and then everything arrived and she wanted something longer and baggier and something that would cover her bum. So we ended up with the Sunday sweater by Petite Knit. This is black, so the camera's not gonna love it, but, oops, got some yak attached to it here. Okay, here is the Sunday sweater. And you can see this has a beautiful fold over collar. It's got this great yoke with the ribbing, and then it goes all the way down. So I'll put in some photos of Audrey wearing it. She does love it. She's 14, so getting her to not keep it on the floor is a challenge. I have threatened to take it back once or twice. I suppose if you're gonna give something to someone, you just have to let them do with it what they will, but frustrates me to see it on the floor. Okay, changes I made. The whole top yoke part I kept the same. I would say I changed the sleeve in that normally you would do increases and make it very baggy and then do a small cuff. I kept it the same, and then I did a really extended ribbed cuff, and I also extended the length quite a bit. I didn't measure it, but a lot. The other thing, of course, you may have noticed is there's a there's a stripe in the middle, and that is because, oh, mohair. And that is because I had already bought black and pink, and I didn't want to then go out and buy more yarn. So I said, whatever we're doing, we're going to use this yarn. So, but because it was longer, I had to add a lot of yarn. So let me show you. So we start off with Drops Air in there. It's a charcoal-y color that they have, mixed with Katya. So I found this on sale at my local, where is it? Katya Air, which is a fingering, 35% alpaca, 30% polyamide, and the rest mohair. So it's an alpaca mohair, so I held that double. Do you know how they say you have to love someone a lot to knit them a black sweater? Factor in stranded with mohair. That's how much I love my kid. I did tell her that, that saying, which she thought was funny. Yeah, so black, 100% alpaca stranded with black alpaca mohair. And then when I got down to the pink, it was the pink drops with, again, the alpaca mohair. Once I had finished the pink on the body, I was worried about having enough for the sleeves because I had only one ball of that yarn. And so I put that body on waste yarn, and I picked it for the sleeves, and I did the sleeves. Now, I did find that I had the right size 10-inch circulars to do the sleeves, which just, I think now that I've discovered that, well, I'll tell you later what I bought, but it just works really, really well for me. And once I did that and I got to the end, I then used the rest of my black or most of the rest of my black drops to finish the sleeves, and she wanted them extra long as well. So that took some time. And then I had to go back and finish the body, and I didn't have enough of the black left. And so I bought another Katya at my local store that was on sale. And this one has a bit of stellina in it. See, it's subtle, which is good. I still have to weave in some ends on this. And then I finished the bottom with a ribbing. So yeah, I started and finished this in the last time I saw you. It's quite light. It's very cozy. She loves it. And yeah, I think it was really worth doing. I mean, in the end, it was a lot of yarn because it was so much longer than I initially intended. And I remember going back and buying yet another. Like, I think it took me, it took 3, 7, 8, 9. It took 9 balls of yarn, which I guess is not ridiculous considering you're holding it double-stranded. But I went back into the merceria and I was like, I picked up another thing, and she's like, mas lana? More yarn? I'm like, mas lana, mas lana, mas lana. More yarn, more yarn, more yarn, more wool. Don't you agree? Okay, so that is the end of my finished objects. Now on to whips. So if you saw my last video, you saw that I am very close to being finished my Winterfell cardigan. Here it is here. Actually, let me do it up. So I'm still at the point where I've only basted in the zipper. I have not finished sewing in the zipper, and it's just what I've managed to do so far. I am really pleased with it though. I really like it. The only thing I wish I had remembered is that the button band is covered one over the other. And so I should have made the button band half the width in order for it to be the same distance across. So do you see what I mean? Like normally those two button bands would be crossing each other, and so it would therefore be, anyway, it's fine. Like I like it. I do want the sleeves to stretch out a bit, and I've started unraveling the cuffs because I want the cuffs to be longer. And also I decided to do a twisted rib on this, and now I'm thinking maybe I don't want to do a twisted rib. Now I'm thinking I might rip it all the way back and just do a regular ribbing. So, but it's great. I mean, I'm very, very, very pleased with this sweater. And again, I did it in less than 4 skeins of yarn, and it's a rustic Spanish wool. This whole thing would have come in like under 30 euros for a hand knit sweater. My Bright Feather by Jennifer Steingast has not been touched since I last saw you. Just was working on other things. I do have a plan when it's nice and cool to sit outside and do it. I think that might be really fun, but have not worked on that yet. Okay, and then some acquisitions. So let's see. I'm gonna start off with my knit crate. So my knit crate came this month, and this yarn, look at this. It's called Chonk, Chunky Chonk. And this is 82% merino, 18% Peruvian Pima cotton. 100 grams, 109 yards, machine wash gentle, lay flat to dry. And I did wind one of these. Wait till you see this. Look at this. Look, it's literally the size of my head almost. Okay, not quite, but close. So this is great. It's very soft. I don't normally knit with such chunky yarn, but I thought I'd give it a shot. Now I can't find the book that came with it, the pattern book, but I'll put in a picture. And basically it's like a dicky. It's like a turtleneck, and then it has like the cable pattern coming down the front and maybe down the back as well. I can't remember, but I love that. I thought that's perfect for Spain because you don't always need a huge sweater, but a little extra warmth here and down and like on the chest area would be really nice. So I wound that up. That's going to come on soon. So that's my first acquisition. Then about on Friday. So I don't want to go into the whole COVID thing because I know we're all dealing with it, but you know, Europe, everywhere, but Europe not doing so great right now. And so there are more restrictions coming on and a lot of uncertainty. And I was, I'm not gonna lie, feeling down, feeling, you know, just a little weary of it all. And I decided to indulge in a little retail therapy. So full disclosure, that's how I was feeling, and it worked. So it made me happy. And I don't always like to admit that, you know, adding material goods makes me feel better, but in this case it did. So what I did was I ordered from a Spanish online yarn store. They call it a yarn boutique, and it's called Mimosa Lanar Cafe. And she is in Asturias, which is in a different part of Spain, different province. And if you follow her on Instagram, that's her Instagram is just Mimosa Lanar Cafe, I think. You know, clearly she lives out in the countryside, she has her dog, and she just has this small online business, and that's exactly the kind of person that I love to support. So my order came with this pretty card, isn't that nice? And a little note saying thank you, that she enjoyed my order, and that those beautiful Luca needles that I got. So let me show you. So what I decided to do was to get myself some shorty needles. I think we had talked in the past that I was kind of coveting the Chowgu shorty set, but I just couldn't justify the cost of the shorty set, especially since it wasn't going to include all of the needle sizes that I needed. And so I thought, okay, how often do you actually use shorties? And I looked online to see, is there another company that does a shorty set? I couldn't find it in a set until I found these Luca, I think it's pronounced Luca needles. I want to say they're Danish. Okay, so you can see here that these are shorty driftwood needles. They're very pretty, and I had used some other ones before that I really liked. I didn't know that they made the shorties, and more than that, I didn't know that they made shorties that for individual sale, like you didn't have to buy the set. And these shorties work with Knit Pro cables, which is the cables that I already had. So I looked at it as kind of being able to use what I already had. I did buy one cord, this one here, because that was the size that I was missing for the sleeves that I wanted to do. But I got two sizes. I got 3 US 5s and US 4s, which are 3.75s and 3.5s. And the reason why I did that is I knew I was going to need the 3.75s for the bright feather, and for another one I knew I was going to need the 3.5s. Mostly when people use a US 6, which I think a US 6 is a 4mm if I'm not mistaken. That's what a lot of sweaters are knit at, it seems like, but I can never get gauge with that, and so I always have to go down to either a 3.5 or a 3.75mm. So I thought if over time I get a few, so these were I think €7 a piece, so say like $8 US, something like that. But if I only need 3 or 4 sets to really get by, it makes more sense than to spend like over $100 on a set of chacus. So yeah, I feel like if I just, as I go and need more, I can then add to that if I need it. But I now have, I think, about 5 different sizes at that shorter length, and I have a feeling that's probably gonna do me. And I also got these 2 yarns. So they're called Superba. There we go. So there's the Superba. And this is a premium superwash. It's also German. 75% virgin wool and 25% polyamide. So that's really great for me for, I just thought these were pretty colors that made me happy, really. That's all it comes down to. I just wanted something pretty, and this is a very affordable yarn, and so it was just a little treat. Okay, so then I wanted to put some of those colors that I had gotten recently together. I do want to make a shawl. And the funny thing is I am not a shawl person. I usually feel like if I'm going to do a great big shawl, I may as well make a sweater. Like I kind of feel like a garment is more valuable somehow than a shawl. But now I'm really drawn to shawls. Okay, I'm back. Oh, my battery died and it's now 2 days later. That was, I think, Saturday that I was recording, and today is Monday. So I'm just gonna continue pick up where I left off. I am wearing my Mazé sweater by Marie-Amélie Designs. It's got the little puff sleeves, and I have now blocked it. When you last saw it, I hadn't blocked it. So it's kind of flattened and plumped up a little bit, and it's a little more smooth. And this is 100% alpaca from Knit Crate. It's super comfortable. I'll try and link below where I talked about it last. So like I was saying, I don't normally, I have never knit a big shawl. I've knit a few little shawls, some cowls. I used to joke that all I can knit are tubes of different sizes because I used to do a lot of like cowls, fingerless mitts, hats, you know, socks really. So it's like tube with different variations. But I kind of feel like with the Spanish winter, just wearing a coat, like it's not really a parka type of place. So just wearing a coat with like a big warm, you know, scarf or shawl wrapped around you would be great. So what shawl am I starting off with? I have 2 shawls planned. Well, I have 1 shawl planned and I have one that is now well into being a whip. And this is called the Study Hall Shawl, and it is by Schira. And it is free in the Knitty magazine, which is an online magazine, which is great. You should check it out because all of the patterns, as far as I can tell, are free. And this is from the first fall 2018, and I'll link it below. And I just fell in love with this because I wanted to try something that had just a little bit of color work and that had some mosaic knitting in it. And mosaic knitting is essentially where you're using only one color at a time on a row, but you create a pattern by slipping stitches. And so over a matter of rows, you then create a pattern using slip stitches. And the other one that I'm going to be doing has a lot of that. And so I wanted to practice on something using mostly scraps, basically, mostly leftovers. I won't say scraps because it takes a fair amount of yarn, but mostly leftovers. So this is what it looks like. I'll put in a few pictures. I looked at all the examples online, and what I decided I wanted to do was to play with color. And I had looked, I'll put in a picture first before I show it to you. I had this wooden bowl full of beautiful yarns, beautiful pinks and burgundies and dusty roses. And I thought, this is so beautiful. This makes me really happy. I want to create with it. So I ended up using these 4 together. So this is a undyed from Knit Crate. And then I went into this, which is from that last order that I just did. And that is some of the sock yarn, Superba sock yarn. And then this is Holskarn Super Soft that I ordered last Christmas to do a hat for Lily, but it just never worked out. And then this is some burgundy sock yarn from Hobby. And again, I was gonna use this for my You Better Work socks, but it didn't arrive in time. So I had these 4 colors together that I thought would make a nice combo. And so let me show you what I have so far. I've gotten quite a ways. I don't even know if I can hold this whole thing up, but let's hold up half. You can see it's basically that times 2. And yeah, this is what I have so far. So I love the way the 3 sets of stripes looks together. They have enough contrast, I think. And then these are the mosaic panels. So I've done the first one. So I'm basically taking 3 sets of stripes and then repeating those same 3 colors to get to the end of the shawl. So I have this, and then this is going to be 6 of these. So 1, 2, so 3 times this basically. And I have to say, when this fuchsia yarn arrived from Holskarn, I don't know, it just didn't do for me what I thought it was gonna do. I didn't like love it. And when I put it in here against the white, I love it. And so this actually will have the most prominence. And then this will come back at the end in a basket weave pattern to finish off the shawl. So I guess I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through, I would say, but of course you're adding 4 stitches every knit row. So it's gonna get wider and wider and wider. So yeah, that's what I have so far. So it will go like this. It gives you a little preview. Gives me a little preview. And I'm hoping that because, you know, the Holst is quite a woolly wool, and the other ones are fairly soft, but they're sock yarns. I'm hoping that they will have a little bit of structure and that they'll be quite warm. But this was kind of just a fun practice. This is the wrong side, obviously. This is just a fun practice, and also to practice the mosaic knitting before I worked on my bigger project. Okay, so let's do this next project that I'm planning to cast on next, and then I'll show you what I got for it. So if you watch Caddy Jack's Knits, which I think probably a lot of you do, they were working on a shawl by Natasha Hornby, Moonstruck Knits, I believe it's called, and they did this beautiful big shawl. I'll put the name of it. I think it's the Mazet. No, didn't I just say that already? I can't remember. I'll put it in. They did some beautiful shawls by her that looked really, really complicated and just a bit more than what I was wanting to do right now. I wanted something that would be a bit of a challenge, but still relaxing and meditative, and something that I could, you know, do fairly quickly. So I decided on the NYX shawl, and I'll put in a few pictures. This just really appealed to me because I feel like it will have that structure of being, because with the mosaic knitting, you create a bit of a thicker fabric, a bit more of a structured fabric. And I love the tassels. It's totally unlike anything I've ever made, but I think it's gonna be really beautiful. And I actually fell in love with her original version. I don't think I've ever made anything that's exactly the same color or yarn as, other than maybe the Getting Warmer Cowl was the same yarn, but I don't think it was the same color. I wanna say they did it in gray and I did it in burgundy, but I could be wrong. But very, very rarely. But there was something about that color combo that just struck me as just being really classic and crisp, and yeah, it just appealed to me. So I ordered from Holskarn. So Holskarn, let me look it up really quickly. So the cost is €3, or actually it's €2.95, $3.50 US per, but it's 50 grams and it's 287 meters, 314 yards. So what I did was I bought 3 colors for this shawl. I bought this one, which is Pebble. This will be the main color. I got 3. And then the highlight will be in black. And this, I don't think it's called black. What's it called? Graphite. And then the third little accent color is Carmine. So very classic, not exactly the colors because she didn't use Holskarn in the original design. But one great thing about Ravelry is you can go on and look at the yarn and then see projects made with the yarn to see different color combos. So I found someone's sweater that had the color combo that I want, and then I figured out which color to get. Now, they were out of the one gray. This gray is perhaps slightly lighter than I would have liked. I would have liked something a little bit deeper, but I feel like it's mostly going to be combined in with other colors, and so it'll be all right. Okay, so this whole scarn, super soft. They leave in the spinning oils, which is how they keep the cost down because they're putting less time, I guess, into it. So it's a little bit crunchy, a little bit, you know, certainly not super soft, put it that way. So what I was worried about with this is whether or not it was going to run, that the color was going to run. And so I actually skeined this up and I washed it. And so here's what it looks like after it was washed and dried. You can see that it blooms really nicely. It puffs up quite a bit. Comparing those two. A little bit of color came out, not very much. I don't think anything that's going to affect the color in the final product when I block it. And actually, if anything, the black and the red might deepen this color a little bit, and that doesn't bother me. So I have all of that ready to go. I'm going to wait until I finish this scarf shawl that I'm working on and get a little more work done on my bright feather before I cast this on, but I'm looking forward to casting it on. Okay, now I'm done. That's all the knitting, and there is sewing on the way. It is going on back there. I have quite a few things in process, so I'll be back later in the week probably with at least some of that. And yeah, but I hope that you enjoyed this. I really appreciate it when you watch my knitting. If you are a knitter and you could share this podcast with other knitters, that would be great, because I would love to also build up some knitters to come and watch me. I'm watching so many knitting podcasts right now. I'm actually watching some in French and in Spanish as well as in English. So if you would like some recommendations and you want me to do a video on that, let me know below. Please let me know below which of my projects that I featured today was your favorite. If there's any that are going to go on your wish list, on your likes list, or in your queue in Ravelry, I would love to hear it. All right, guys, that is all for me. I will talk to you soon. I hope wherever you are, the sun is shining and you are sewing or knitting. Bye.